What a joy that you have found us for this podcast. How exciting it is to think that this spiritual message is going out to people around this planet. Whether your life is working at a peak level or whether it can use some enhancement, have I got the message for you today. So get a piece of paper, get ready to take notes, call a friend, have them watch this podcast also. Then you too can have something to talk about and take it to a deeper level. So enjoy. Here we go. Hey, good morning, Seaside. Wow, what a joy it is to be with you in this holiday season, a season of fun and life and light and love and joy and miracles, and I could keep going on. And those are all the things that happen here at Seaside on a regular basis. And this morning's call to worship, Reverend Fran. Thank you. One of my favorite holiday songs, Do You See What I See? I can remember being a little kid sitting in church about this size, right there, about the front row with my dad, and the guy singing, Do You See What I See? And had a little kid dressed up as a little sheep and as a shepherd. And it made that impression for me. But I also thought, it's God. Imagine if that's God talking, do you see what I see? Do you hear what I hear? God saying, do you know what it is I know about you? The truth about you? I mean, what a magnificent perception to be able to have, because we're told that God is right there in the midst. It says, I am in the midst. I am in the midst. I am with you always. Remember that one? I am in the midst with you. God is omnipresent. It is everywhere present. And if I could know, as Spirit knows, in the midst of those times of confusion or chaos, of not knowing, right then when you begin to doubt, if I could just remember, I am there with you always. I am in the midst. Just see as I see here. Know as I know about the situation. And the truth is, it doesn't matter what your religious persuasion or your spiritual persuasion may be. I'm there in the midst. It doesn't matter if you even believe. I'm there in the midst. That originating, all animating first cause. It's there in the midst. And so when you're facing a tough time, and the doctors turn away with confusion, they don't know what it is they can do, and give you a death sentence. Spirit saying, I'm there with you. I'm in the midst. They're not the ones that heal anyway. I am. With me, all things are possible. Or you're looking at a financial situation, looks disastrous, and your view is filled with imminent disaster financially. If you could just remember that the supply, I am there in the midst. I am there with you. A broken heart, grieving, sadness, regret, any of those human emotions. Remember, I am there. I'm the one who cares. And lift you up. If you could just see as I can see you. If you could just know as I know the truth of the situation. When the music stops inside of you and things have dried up and life is not exciting and the joy has gone away and your creativity has been stymied. If you can just remember it. I'm the music. I am that creative expression. I just got to come to see as Spirit sees. And healing happens. Shifts take place. It's amazing how it works. There was this one Filipino priest who was kind of a sourpuss. His job was to debunk anybody who really believed. And there was this one little girl by the name of Rosa who said that she spoke to God every day. And so this priest went there to prove her wrong and said, so I hear you speak to God, or you speak to Jesus, not God, Jesus every day. And she said, yeah, just matter-of-factly. He said, okay, well, next time you talk to him, would you ask him, what was the sin that I did as a young man when I was in seminary? He said, okay, I'll do that. And she said, come back in a week. He said, all right, I'm going to debunk her now. I'm going to really, catch her. And he came back in a week later, and he asked little Rosa, did you talk with Jesus this week? He said, yeah. And, well, did you ask him my question, what it was I did that was so sinful? She said, yeah. And he said, well, what did he say? And she said that he said, I forgot. It's like, is that not a beautiful expression of the Spirit? Yeah. Spirit doesn't remember our blunders, our mistakes, our screw-ups, and our past, just no good things we did. We are absolutely let go and forgiven in that moment. If we could just know as Spirit knows the truth about our being, if we could just see as Spirit sees the gifts that are in store, that are waiting for us, the miracles that begin to transform in our life. But what happens is rather than forgetting, we hold on to the pain and the hurts. I mean, I work with people who they blame their partners for their marriages not working. Or they live with a sense of blame because the things that their coworkers are stirring stuff up that they come home at night with their guts in a knot and can't sleep. And they're into blame and pointing their finger and not taking the responsibility upon themselves. There's a little guy out hiking with his dad in the mountains, and he tumbled over the side of the mountains and fell about 30 feet until he got stuck in the bushes. And the little guy, just scared. He was absolutely fine, but he was scared, and he just shouted out, "Hey, is anybody out there?" And when he got back, "Anybody out there?" And he said, "Who are you?" And when he got back, he said, "Who are you?" He said, starting to get angry. He needed some help. He said, "You're a coward," and comes back, "You're a coward." He says, "You're a fool," and comes back, "You're a fool." And his dad by that time gets there and extricates him from the bushes. And he says, "Dad, who's out there? What's going on?" And his dad just laughs. It says, it's an echo. It's just like life. Listen, you're a winner. You're a winner. You're wonderful. You're wonderful. You can do it. You can do it. And that's the thing with life. What is it that we're putting out there that echoes back to us? Are we holding on to the mistakes that we may have made back in seminary when you're a young kid? Or the mistakes you maybe made yesterday? Or are you choosing to see as God sees? Are you choosing to know as Spirit knows in your life? Are you able to hear what Spirit is saying? Because I want us to know that things are not just arbitrarily happening to us in our life. There is this echo that comes back to us. It's not like there's this big chess game going on and we're pawns in this cosmic game called chess being moved around by forces that we know not of. There is not some hostile energy that you have to go fight against. It is not there. There is this all-animating life principle, first cause, that breathed us into form and says, "I am with you always. I'm in the midst." And am I able to know that when we're facing the difficulties or the challenges in our life? The little guy was trying to explain why he can't play football or baseball yet. He says, "I can't play football or baseball because I'm not 8 years old yet. And my mom said that when I begin to play baseball, I'm not going to run as well as the other kids because I had an operation. But I told her that's okay because I'm just going to hit the ball out of the park every time and walk around the bases." Is that an amazing perspective in which to step out in life? Is not being stopped by the physical facts that are there, but rather there is a consciousness, there is an understanding, there's a deep knowingness. Life gets better when we get better. Yeah, I like that. Life gets better when we get better. One of the strongest psychic forces there is the unsatisfied desire. That unsatisfied purpose, that soul desire, that's something inside of us that wants to create. It has got to be one of the most powerful forces there is, and I want us to know that that force is still there. That life energy is still there, and it wants to come forth, and Spirit says, "Listen to that. Hear what I hear. I'm with you. I'm in the midst of it. Honor that. Listen to that, because that is the energy, that is the supply, that is the life force, that is the vibrancy that all was created from." When I think about supply, it's not so much the things that are out there. Take the fruit tree or fruit orchard or an orange orchard. The supply and the sustenance and what it's the fruit. You harvest the oranges and you send them forth and you think that's the supply. But you know what? That is not the supply. The supply is invisible. The supply is that something that runs through the tree, that runs from the roots, that creates the oranges, that creates the fruit. Supply is invisible. It is not the money. It is not the stocks. It is not those things outside. It is that something that is inside of you. I've seen people lose it all and they had come back and create it again. Because there's an invisible supply. There is something that is in them that says, you know what? I am a creator in life. And it doesn't matter what the circumstances have been. What mistakes I may have been. Spirit forgot those. saying, you beautiful child, I'm well pleased. But what is it you're putting out there? I like what Isaiah said, is that we get to eat the fruits of our tongues. Kind of biblical sounding, James, James 3:10, it says, with our tongues we will create our world and a life of a blessing or a life of a curse. With our tongues, with our thinking, with our consciousness, with our feeling, with our emotions, with our action. Not just our words, but is that something that moves for us. It is that life force, is that creation, is that infinite supply that is forever seeking expression. And you can use it to create destructively. You can use it to create mistakes in your life. And so often what happens is when there is the mistake or the circumstance or the situation in life, we try to fix it. We try to get God to come over here and fix it. I talked about this last week. When we focus in on the problem and try to fix the problem, what we're doing is saying there is a problem first and God second. Follow that one? What I got to know is Spirit is there in the midst, and I am in the Spirit, and it is all one. And if there's a situation in my life, it is because of my misuse of a law that says yes to the level in which I believe. It's done unto you as you believe. Law of attraction, law of creation. I have misused a law that responds, and it's not like I need to go fix anything. What I must do is enter back into that sense of oneness with the presence. There aren't monsters out there that are so ominous they're going to gobble me up. There are life expressions that have come from the echo that I have put out there, that I have put out there. Bless you. It's my job, Hey, remember this old story about a person having a nightmare. It was a horrible nightmare. They're being chased by a fire-breathing dragon, a horrendous-looking dragon. This dragon is coming down on them. One of those green dragons foaming at the mouth. The eyes just kind of dangling. The breath is horrendous. And the person stumbles, and they look up on the dragon, begging for mercy. What are you going to do with me? What are you going to do? And the dragon says, I don't know, buddy. It's your dream. Those monsters in our life, those situations in our life. This is what are you going to do? What are you going to do with it? It's not, what is this situation or this circumstance going to do with me? But what am I going to do with this monster? Am I going to let it go? Am I going to know there's something bigger, there's something greater? Am I going to surrender to that life force, that new level of supply, that new level of creation, the new ideas, that which brings the music, that which has forgiven me? I don't need to get in. I don't want to create blame in our life. The last thing we need is more blame and shame. Last thing we need to do is be blaming the people, the partners, the situations, the coworkers, putting shame out there. What we need more is oneness. That's how you fix the situation. Is you don't fix it, you go back to the oneness and remember, I am in the midst. Hear what I hear. See what I see. Know what it is I know. It comes back to your intention. What is your intention with that circumstance or the people? Is your intention oneness? That's what gets echoed back. What is your intention? Is forgiveness? If you're struggling financially, what is your intention? Oneness with the finance and the supply? What is your intention? Reconciliation? What is your intention? Do you want to be free? Do you want to be able to move through life? Because if your intention is oneness, you're going to get to a place to realize that these things that are going on in your life are just a reflection. They are no more powerful than the dramas that took place in the sandbox or the playground of children who are no more than 5 years old. When you truly come to know your oneness, what happens is you begin to recognize all it is a friction of fiction. I like that one. It's just a matter of the friction of your fiction that is creating the situations in your life. And so, do you want freedom? Do you want freedom? Do you want freedom? Oh, good. Because if you don't want the freedom, then you might as well, or you've just bought yourself another psychic ticket, admission into the nightmares of the theater of your mind. It works. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are in your life, what the situation is or how old you are. Doesn't matter if you're 6 in the sandbox or 106. You know, there's a guy who went to a doctor, got his physical exam. He was 60 years old, and the doctor said, "You are in amazing shape. You have got one of the greatest 60-year-old bodies I've ever seen. You know, do you mind? Do I ask you, what is it that your father died of?" He said, "My dad? My dad's not dead. He's 84 years old." And the doctor said, "Wow. Well, you mind if I ask, what does your grandfather die of?" I said, "My grandfather, he's not dead." He's 106 years old. And matter of fact, he just got married. And the doctor said, you don't mind I ask, but what in the world does a 106-year-old want to get married? And the guy said, "Did I say he wanted to get married?" You know, we find ourselves in situations of our creation no matter what age we are. And the truth is 106 is young these days. Our nutritionists are telling us we can live to 120. The holistic practitioners are telling 120 is the new age in which people can expect to live. And I figure if that is the truth, then I don't even hit my prime until I'm in the 60s and 70s and 80 years old. And that's what I'm going to hold to is the echo I'm putting out there. You know, what intention? What is your intention to know that I am in the midst even when I am looking at chaos and confusion that is there? It comes down to your choice. Do you see as I see is what Spirit's asking you? Do you know as I know what's going on in your life? Because I'm there. Abraham Maslow, the wonderful psychologist, he said that the greatest lesson is that the sacred is in the ordinary and that it's found in one's daily life, in one's neighbors, families, friends, and one's backyard. That's the truth. The sacred, that which makes things possible, is found everywhere you want to look. It's there. So the good news is, you know, good ideas, they don't know bad times. Good ideas, those divine ideas, they just don't buy into the economic situation, what people are saying, what the doctors are saying. The good news is all things are possible, but you got to have the courage to believe. You got to have the faith. You got to have the courage to step out there, to say yes in your life to new ideas, to new creations. There's a story that comes out of Stanford Hospital of a little girl by the name of Liza. Little Liza had a very rare disease that was very serious, could cost her her life. Her only apparent hope for healing was to get a blood transfusion from her little 5-year-old brother who had gone through the same disease and miraculously lived through it, and his blood had now the antibiotics to combat the disease. The doctors attempted to explain this to the little 5-year-old that his blood could help save his big sister's life, and would he be willing to do that? And he thought for a second, only a moment, took a big gulp and said, "If I could help save Liza's life, I will. Let's do it." So the two lie down in the same bed, and they're doing the blood transfusion. And the little guy, he's just got a smile on his face, as everyone did in the room, as the color returned to Liza's cheeks and her face. But then all of a sudden, the little guy just went pale. He went ashen, and the smile left his face. And he looked up to the doctor and said, "Am I going to start dying right away?" For in this little guy's perspective, he thought he had to give all of his blood to save his sister's life. That he was willing to be courageous enough to step into what he didn't know to save his sister. Talk about faith. Talk about courage. Talk about seeing and knowing something that we don't know. That's the power. That's the miracle that is there. It's the power you have. You know, what is it that little kid had? I mean, I would love to be a little brother like that. What is it that would make me a little brother like that? But that's what we all have. It doesn't matter the mistakes we made. You've forgiven. God's forgot it. What is remembered is your divine blueprint and the possibilities, and that unsatisfied desire to create in your life is still looking to birth itself, and it takes the courage you have and a belief that Spirit will step there with whatever is miraculous to help bring it about in ways that you know not, because there is a supply of source of Spirit that is unlimited, that is flowing through you. Anwar Sadat, I loved one of the great leaders of our time when he was in Egypt. He said, you can't be a realist unless you believe in miracles. You can't be a realist unless you believe in miracles, that there is a possibility for some kind of divine intervention, regular intervention. You don't have to call it God, but that there's something can show up that you did not plan for that is there. And so as we enter into this holiday season where we celebrate the miracles and the gifts and the glory and the celebration of life and honoring the different traditions, it is a time of remembering. It is a time of joy. It is a time of celebrating. It is a time of song. It is a time of dancing. And you know what? You don't need an excuse to be able to celebrate. You don't need to have excuses to experience joy. I know people who think they have got to have reasons to have joy in their life. They put together Christmas trees with lights, but they won't put their lights on unless somebody's coming over because they don't want to run up their electric bill. You're worthy of experienced joy. People will say, you know what? Gosh, it's been a while, so I'm now entitled. You know what? It doesn't have to be a while for you to experience the joy and the miracles in your life. Well, I have earned it. You bet you've earned it just by showing up. You don't need excuses to experience joy in your life. Just listen. And do you see what I see? Do you hear what I hear? Do you know what I know is what God's saying, is what life is saying? Do you know the truth of you? You're entitled to experience the gifts of the season. You're entitled to experience the gifts that have been placed in your heart and soul. There's no one holding anything against you. Your life will echo back to you what it is you believe about yourself. So I ask you to listen, to see, and to hear as God hears, and say yes to the gifts that are waiting for you. God bless us. Again, with a lot of heart and soul and passion. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. Hey, I trust you enjoyed that podcast. It was very exciting to be able to create that and to know that there are people like you all around the world that are observing and integrating these spiritual principles into their life. And so if you enjoyed it, what I'd like to do is encourage you to tell a friend or bring several friends together and watch another one of these podcasts, and then afterwards take some time to talk about the spiritual principles, to talk about the stories and what significance they have and relevance they have in your life. What then happens is it moves to a deeper and deeper level in your world. It becomes real and assists you to create the freedom in your life that your heart and soul so desire.